November 14, 1965. Landing Zone X-Ray, Ia Drang Valley, Vietnam. Nearly 200 American soldiers step off helicopters into a small jungle clearing. Within hours, they're surrounded. Over 1,600 North Vietnamese soldiers close in from every direction. It becomes one of the bloodiest fights of the entire war. But let's change one thing. Drop a full company of modern U.S. Marines into that same clearing, same jungle, same enemy. But this time, they're carrying today's rifles, today's optics, and today's training. So what happens when 2020's firepower lands in the middle of 1965's deadliest jungle battle? Do the Marines turn it around? Or does the jungle swallow them just like it swallowed everyone else? So what exactly just landed in the Ia Drang Valley? A modern Marine rifle company. Around 180 men split into 3 platoons, each broken down further into fire teams of 4. Every Marine carries an M4 carbine or an M27 infantry automatic rifle, both firing 5.56mm rounds with way more accuracy than anything from the 1960s. Squad leaders carry M320 grenade launchers. Fire teams carry M240 machine guns for suppressing fire. A handful of Marines carry Javelin anti-tank missiles, useless against bunkers maybe, but deadly against any dug-in position. Every Marine wears night vision goggles, turning total jungle darkness into daylight. Every squad carries a small recon drone, giving them eyes on enemy movement from hundreds of yards out before a single shot is fired. Radios link every fire team to every other fire team, so orders move in seconds, not minutes. Medics carry modern trauma kits, tourniquets, and blood-clotting gauze that didn't exist in 1965, gear that turns wounds that once meant death into wounds a man can walk away from. But supplies are tight. Each Marine carries about 5 days of MREs, 7 magazines for his rifle, and just enough batteries for goggles, drones, and radios if the squad rations carefully. No resupply is coming. No reinforcements either. Whatever lands with them is all they get. Now here's what they're up against. At Ia Drang, the North Vietnamese army had over 5,600 regulars in the valley, some of the best trained soldiers Hanoi had. These weren't farmers with rifles. They were disciplined, well-drilled infantry who had studied American tactics closely, built around years of fighting the French before the Americans ever arrived. Their main weapon was the AK-47, backed by SKS rifles, mortars, and the occasional machine gun nest dug into the tree line. Their entire strategy was built around one idea: get close, real close, close enough that American planes and artillery couldn't strike without hitting their own men too. Troops called it hugging the belt. It's the reason the real battle turned into such a slaughter. Air power and heavy weapons meant nothing once the fighting dropped to grenade range, and the terrain helped them. Thick elephant grass taller than a man, red dirt anthills for cover, and jungle so dense you could lose a soldier 10 feet away. The NVA knew every inch of this ground. They'd trained here, moved supplies through here, buried caches here. The Marines don't know any of it. All they have is a map, a landing zone, and whatever their drones can show them once they touch down. On the other side of the tree line, the NVA commander watches his scouts head out and expects the same result he always gets. American troops that stack up in the open, hesitate under fire, and take minutes to react to contact. That's what beat the French. That's what's worked against Americans so far in this war. He has no reason to expect anything different tonight. The first contact happens fast. NVA scouts move through the tree line testing the American position, just like they did in the real battle. But this time, drones catch them before they even reach the clearing. Night vision goggles pick up heat signatures moving through grass that should be pitch black. The Marines see them coming. The NVA don't see the Marines at all. Squad leaders call it in over the radio, and within seconds, 3 fire teams shift position to cover the approach. When the first NVA platoon pushes forward, they walk straight into a kill zone nobody warned them about. M240 machine guns cut through the grass. M4s pick off individual soldiers with precision the 1965 defenders never had. The advance stalls in under a minute. Bodies pile up at the tree line. The NVA commander, confused, orders another push, thinking it's just bad luck. It isn't. It's optics, training, and coordination doing what raw numbers can't answer. Down on the western edge of the perimeter, one fire team gets its first real test. 4 Marines, though into a shallow line behind a fallen log, watch their drone feed on a small handheld screen as an NVA squad creeps along a dry creek bed 50 yards out. The team leader doesn't wait for them to get close. He calls a grid reference over the radio, and 30 seconds later, a mortar team behind the perimeter drops 2 rounds almost exactly on target. The creek bed goes quiet. It's a small moment in a much bigger night, but it's the kind of moment that repeats itself dozens of times before sunrise, and it's the reason the perimeter never comes close to breaking the way it did in the real battle. But the NVA don't quit. They never did in the real battle either. Wave after wave keeps coming, probing for gaps, testing the perimeter from different angles, trying every trick that worked against the real defenders in 1965. This is where the Marines' real advantage shows. Radios mean every platoon knows exactly where the pressure is building, so reserves shift instantly instead of guessing. Drones track flanking movement through the jungle canopy, something the real 1965 defenders would have killed for. Every time the NVA try to slip around the side, the Marines already know they're coming. Grenade launchers reach out to burn through cover that used to be safe. One NVA squad tries crawling through that same dry creek bed to flank the western edge again, hours later, hoping the Marines have let their guard down. This time a drone spots them from 200 feet up before they've covered half the distance. A single grenade round from an M320 ends the attempt before it starts. Night drags on, and the perimeter holds. Not because the Marines outnumber the enemy. They don't, not even close. It holds because they can see, hear, and react faster than an enemy still fighting by sound and instinct alone. Around 2 a.m., the closest thing to a crisis hits. A drone battery dies mid-flight over the northern edge, right as a larger NVA formation begins massing in the tree line it was watching. For almost 4 full minutes, that side of the perimeter is blind, relying on nothing but night vision and old-fashioned listening. It's the same kind of gap that got real defenders killed in 1965. A corporal on watch catches movement through his goggles just in time, grass bending in a pattern no animal makes, and calls it in seconds before the NVA push begins. Machine guns open up on a formation the Marines can barely see, guided as much by instinct and training as by technology. The attack breaks, but it's a reminder that every piece of this modern advantage depends on power, signal, and machines that can fail at the worst possible moment. By sunrise, the ground in front of the Marine lines looks nothing like it should. Dozens of NVA dead are scattered across the clearing, and the wave attacks that broke through so easily in the real battle haven't broken through here at all. Marine medics move low along the perimeter, patching up the wounded with gear that keeps men alive who wouldn't have survived the real 1965 version of this fight. But the second day brings a new enemy, the jungle itself. Heat is brutal, and it's chewing through water faster than anyone planned for. Humidity creeps into gear, batteries drain faster than expected, and by midday, half the drones are grounded. Radios start cutting in and out as moisture works into the electronics. Ammo counts are dropping fast too. Every Marine came in with 7 magazines. In a fight this intense, that runs out quicker than anyone wants to admit. There's no resupply chopper coming. Whatever's left in the pouch is what's left for the rest of the fight. Then, late on the second day, the NVA changed tactics completely. Instead of wave attacks into the guns, small teams start crawling through the anthills and elephant grass, trying to get close enough that grenades and rifles do the same job the ambushes used to do. It's slower, quieter, and far harder to spot even with night vision, since a man moving an inch at a time barely triggers the goggle's motion sense. One team gets within 30 yards before a Marine on watch catches the faint outline of a rifle barrel through the grass. The fire team responds with grenades first, rifles second, and the crawl stops cold. But it costs magazines the Marines don't have to spare. And it costs something else too: sleep. Nobody on the perimeter has closed their eyes in over 30 hours. Fatigue starts creeping into decisions. A tired Marine reacts a half-second slower. In this fight, a half-second is the whole difference. By the third morning, some fire teams are down to 2 magazines each. The company commander makes the call: hold the perimeter tight, conserve everything that's left. It's no longer a fight about winning, it's a fight about lasting. Marines start pulling rounds from the wounded and the dead, redistributing ammo between fire teams so nobody runs completely dry. The javelin gunners, out of real targets, sling their empty tubes and pick up rifles instead. Every man becomes a rifleman again, the same as it was for the grunts who held this ground the first time around. Word passes quietly down the line: 2 mags left, 1 flare left, keep it tight. So how does the real battle compare? In the actual fight at Lizzie X-Ray, American forces lost 79 killed and well over 100 wounded across 3 days of brutal, close-quarters combat, against North Vietnamese losses estimated between 600 and over 1,000 killed. And even then, the battle was only won after non-stop artillery and airstrikes tipped the balance in the final hours. A modern Marine company would almost certainly do far better. Night vision would kill most of the ambushes before they start. Drones would expose flanking movement hours early, and better rifles, radios, and trauma care would likely cut American casualties to a fraction of the real total. But the math that broke the real defenders never fully goes away. Ammo runs out, batteries die. The jungle doesn't care what year the rifles were made, and the NVA can keep feeding fresh troops into the valley from nearby camps, while the Marines can't replace a single man or a single magazine once it's gone. So could modern Marines survive Ia Drang? Yes, and they'd likely dominate it, inflicting losses far worse than the real battle, while keeping their own numbers close to intact. But surviving one valley isn't the same as winning a war that runs another decade across an entire country. The perimeter holds. The war keeps going. One company can change a single night in the jungle. It can't change everything that comes after. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more.